This week on Supercars Talk, it's finally here. Christmas has arrived. It is Bathurst week. The big news this week is that all 10 Mustangs will have brand new crankshafts in their cars for the big race. So there was crankshaft issues, it seems, at Sandown. That was why Richie Stanaway's car went kaboom during the race. And then, depending on which report you hear, there was multiple ones. Somewhere between 2 and 4 went bang over the course of the ride day on the Monday after Sandown. So Ford needed a quick fix on these. They're using a GT3 spec crankshaft. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of how engines work, so I don't know whether this will make a big difference to performance or anything. You'd hope not. They'd run a car, one of the Blanchard cars actually ran around Queensland Raceway the other day to do what I understand is some validation testing and reliability testing on them, and there was some conjecture whether some of the cars would be using second-hand ones because it seems to be a batch issue of the crankshafts that are in the cars currently, or the most recent ones that have gone in. So some of the cars were set to use second-hand ones that were deemed of a good enough quality to use in the Great Race, and then some of the cars, probably the ones with more of a chance to win, would be getting the GT3 style brand new ones, but it looks like everyone will have a brand new one for the race. Then on probably Thursday, Friday, they'll be using older engines with lifed ones in them, inserting new engines, it looks like, for the main event for the Sunday. Hopefully, I mean, it brings it kind of back to the old days, but hopefully reliability doesn't play a big role in the race at the end of the day. It's always sad when your favourite driver has something like that take them out of the race. But, on the other hand, though, it does add a little bit of interest to the race. Anyway, the really big news this week is the 2025 calendar has been released. They said before Bathurst, and it actually came out before Bathurst, which is a little bit of a surprise. Somewhat similar to this year, but also quite different. A lot of the year has a similar kind of cadence. We will have one extra round. That is the big takeaway, and we are not going back to any tracks twice. So no Bathurst opening round. It will be opening SMP. I think that one will be under lights. That hasn't been confirmed yet. Queensland Raceway and the Bend have been added to the calendar then, with dropping the extra Bathurst round and adding in an extra round, which is really exciting to see QR back on the calendar. Then I would like to see Winton at least kind of get back onto the calendar, so we go back to some of those more traditional racetracks, especially when we're probably losing Wanneroo for 2026 due to the Perth Street Race. The Bend will be the 500 before Bathurst, with Sandown going to a sprint round as the penultimate round of the championship, which does also give a bit of cadence of a 2-2-2, at the back end of we've got Bathurst, Gold Coast, Sandown, Adelaide, that are all only 1 weekend apart. So every 2 weeks we have a run of at the end of the year, which, it just gives it a bit of consistency, and you get a bit of momentum towards the end of the year. Hopefully then, say in 26, if we get another round added in, then we can have a bit more cadence through the year. Anyway, there's a few rumours kicking around on the formats, but it looks like there will be more racing and less practicing next year. From what I've heard, it will go back to that 2 shorter sprint races on the Saturday and then 1 longer race on the Sunday, if you like a mini enduro. So we will see extra racing over the weekend rather than less practice. So in my books, that is a win-win-win for everyone. Now, there's also a lot of rumours with it being a 3-part championship with a sprint portion of the championship at the start of the year. Then you have the 2 enduros, and then you have the finals, which will be the 3 last rounds, Gold Coast, Sandown, Adelaide. none of this has been confirmed, but there is talk that it will be. The finals 3 races will be similar to the playoff series that we have in NASCAR at the moment. I don't know the intricacies on that, but from what I've heard, this one is looking like there will be, rather than having the win system to get into the playoffs like NASCAR, it will take the top 10 in points after Bathurst, and they will get a reset, much like what the NASCAR does, where they get a reset in points that puts them away from the other guys in the championship. There will be bonus points for things like wins and enduro wins and things like that during the year, I think, so that the more wins you have, you do actually start at a higher base than someone, say, who's 10th in the championship that's just been very consistent and has no wins. So there is still a reason to kind of go for those wins. So you start a bit higher. Then at Gold Coast, you'll have the bottom 3 of the 10 knocked out. Then at Sandown, the next 3 will be knocked out. So he's 4 kind of going into the final round as a bit of a winner-takes-all system. That is still... Obviously, none of this stuff has been confirmed, but the rumours seem to be getting stronger and stronger on it. So, where there's smoke, there's fire on these things. Also, Super 2's had a bit of a rejig on their calendar. They'll be kicking off at the opening round at SMP, which is also bookended with Adelaide at the end of the year. So they'll be stretching their 6 rounds over the whole of the 13-round championship. But they'll be going Simmons Plains next year instead of Sandown. We'll see them also at Townsville, Queensland Raceway instead of Perth, Bathurst, and then Adelaide. So a few different tracks put in there. Obviously, they've got to get them down to Tasmania, which... that bolsters the Tasmanian, which takes away from the Wanneroo round, but also kind of, it's a bit more East Coast centric, which probably should cut costs a little bit for the teams rather than, having to send them. But then, having said that, they do have to send them down to Tasmania, which is not a inexpensive option either. So, but yeah, really good to see that the calendar is already out. It is a bit more. There's something to look forward to, really. I think there's more pluses in it than minuses this time. Now, one of the big talking points after Sandown was the full course yellow. In some respects, common sense has prevailed. Now, there is no minimum laps of full course yellow for Bathurst. So at Sandown, they had minimum 2 laps of it so that you could go around and everyone could have a pit and blah, blah, blah. And we just watched at least 2 laps of people driving around at 80 Ks of absolute boredom and, yeah, just really, really dragged out, which was so at Bathurst, in essence, if someone has to run out for 5 seconds to grab something off the side of the track, then we go straight back to green after that. And that's what the full course yellow is supposed to be for. Just a little incident where, you have to clean up a wing mirror or a bit of bumper or something like that, where you can just go out, quickly clean it. You don't have to do a full course, full safety car procedure and everything. And really, it's just that quick little, which we seem to have lost sight of that at Sandown, and everyone could go and have a pit and whatever. No, at Bathurst, if we only need it out for 10 seconds, that's fine. But the problem with that is now we've increased the speed limit to 120 kilometres an hour, which is absolutely ridiculous in my mind, because if they've done that because, it's boring for the fans to watch cars driving around at 80 Ks. Well, instead of that, if we need an incident, or if we have an incident where you're going to be driving around for a long time in this full course yellow situation, well, we should be calling a safety car anyway, because it's a big incident that needs a lot of cleaning up. The full course yellow is just so that you can, run out, clean something up, come back in, and do it quickly without the need of a safety car. So what we need to probably do, if it was me even, you'd be bringing it back to 60 Ks or something, and only having a 10-second countdown for them to, something's happened, we're going to do the countdown, bang, 60 Ks an hour, the marshals run out, 60 Ks is probably quite safe for the drivers driving around with the marshals out there. They clean up whatever they have to do quite quickly, come back in, bang, we go back to racing. This 120 Ks an hour is probably not safe then for marshals to be out there. So we just have that thing where we're essentially then letting everyone pit, and then we have the safety car come out. So we waste a heap of time anyway, where we should just be going straight to safety car. But I'm going to argue about this till the end of time, because obviously we have a big issue where we're trying to make a safety thing into a fairness thing for the racing, and we're really forgetting why we need these full course yellows and safety car and things like that. It is because an incident has happened, not because we're trying to make it fair for everyone. If we're trying to make it, why don't we go to stage racing or something like that? If we're going down all of this path kind of thing, we need to look at it more from the safety aspect rather than the fairness aspect on this. That's my opinion, though. So now on to the big event for the weekend. Myself and Scott obviously sat down a couple of weeks ago. We did actually pre-record all of this, so hopefully everything still stacks up with everything that's kind of happened in the last couple of weeks. But that will be next. Just quickly though, the weekend will be kicking off on Wednesday night with the Bathurst street party or whatever it is, when they go to take the cars down to main downtown Bathurst. That would be something really, really cool to see. I think if you're in the area, definitely go and check it out, because I'm quite jealous that I'm not going to be around that. Anyway, the Pit Stop Challenge will be taking part in the heart of Bathurst on Wednesday night. Drivers will actually be driving the cars this time. I don't think it's a big long run-up or anything, but previously when they've done it in the pit lane, the team has actually pushed the car into position and then pushed the car out of position. This time the drivers will actually be driving it into the pit stop and then driving it out. Anyway, there's going to be two heats. Blanchard Racing Team and Matt Stone Racing, they're the ones battling out in the first heat, and then unsurprisingly BJR made it to the finals. They're taking on Triple Eight in the second heat. The winner of each heat will go into the final. This will be telecast on pay TV. All you people that won't pay for TV, you cannot watch this. But on pay TV, so Foxtel KO, it'll be on from 5:30 to 7 o'clock on Wednesday night to whet your appetite for the weekend. Then over the proper weekend, Thursday, 2 60-minute practice sessions. The second of those will be co-drivers only. Friday will be 2 all-in practice sessions of 60 minutes, and then a 40-minute qualifying session at 4:15 in the afternoon. That will set the grid for 11th through to 26th on the grid. Saturday, 2 60-minute practice sessions. Again, one of those co-drivers only. Then the top 10 shootout at 5:05 p.m. One of the best sessions of the year. Granted, it's not quite as exciting nowadays as what it used to be, because we have top 10 shootouts at every second round. Plus the drivers, they're all very, very close, and you don't have enormous things like Lap of the Gods happening, or people cranking up the turbos on their Sierras just for one glory run. Anyway, Sunday, 20-minute warm-up in the morning, and then the 1000 starting at 11:30. They're all Australian Eastern Standard Time, Daylight Savings Time times. So if you live in other states that don't observe, don't believe in Daylight Savings Time, check your clocks. It'll be an hour out or whatever. Or if you're on the western side of the country, you've got different clocks to us for some reason. Anyway, something about cows. No, not really. Anyway, this is... Once me and Scott sat down and had a discussion, this is what we think of the top end of town, essentially, for the great race. So I hope you enjoy. Premier Racing, the surprise packet at Sandown, which probably shouldn't have been a surprise, with Mr. Bathurst Podium's Dave Russell in the car. Then I suppose the question mark more is Tim Slade and Cam McLeod. Premier, it seems to be, if one of them's doing a good job, the other one's down. So I'm still expecting James Golding and David Russell to be right up in the mix. Top 10 shootout, running in the top 10 all day. I can't see them quite being on that Triple Eight pace all day, but I'm putting them probably around that 5th position. So then I'm expecting the second car to be mid-teens.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think Tim's been around the category for quite a while. I think the Cam's had an up and down year in Super 2 as well. He's had that huge shunt over in Perth earlier in the year where they had to fix the car. whether that's a good combination or not, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, Tim will do a solid job, and hopefully he can bring Cam along there as well. But what can you say about Dave? Dave just turns up, does the job every year. I think he's had a really good influence on Jimmy this year,
Yeah.
looking at the result as well too. I think Jimmy can be blindingly fast, and then
Mm,
during the race he'll fall back. I think he just needs
mm,
to maybe just back it off a tenth or two and just let the track and the race come to him a bit more. And I think
mm.
Dave's the right guy to be helping him there as well too. Plus, what's been going on in the background within their engineering and staffing there as well too. This team's actually on a rise moving forward with Ludo as well too. So these guys can absolutely pull a rabbit out of the hat and potentially be on the podium as well too. So. And I reckon the cars look great too. I mean, they're getting rid of the black. These cars, they look the business.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with the paint change on them because they did look pretty good in the black. They're very stealthy, but I definitely like this new look for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I
Yeah.
mean, they got a young engineer in there, Andrew as well. He did the E
Mm.
series with MSR a couple of years ago and was been working on the Super Two program and is working in there as an engineer and learning his craft as well too. What a pretty good environment to learn how to be a race engineer. And these guys are chipping away quicker than what they had been.
Now on to our favourite team, Matt Stone Racing. Okay, Percat will put this thing in the top 10 shootout. I think he's got no problem running in the top 10 all day. I expect Cam Hill to qualify nearly in the top 10. And I think they'll probably kind of get into that top 10 during the day. My big question is, though, the co-drivers. Dylan O'Keefe, I don't know. I just, whether we didn't see enough of him at Sandown, he didn't seem to be enough in the fight. So I think if Nick has got that car kind of in that well into the top 10, I'm not sure if Dylan's going to be able to keep it with the other co-drivers in that realm. And then I think Cam Crick's probably going to be around about where Cam Hill is. So I don't see as much of an issue with the number 4 as what I do with the number 10.
No, I happen to agree. I mean, Dylan did a really great job in running the Porsches at Sandown as well too. Um, from what I could see, Dylan was frying the tyres a little bit quicker than that what probably would have been liked as well too. So I see that sort of dropped him back into that battle pack where he collided with the Shell car as well too. So if he can work with Nick and Jack Bellotti as the engineer and working on making sure that he can look after the tyres over a stint and maintain a good position when he's in the car, they could have a strong result. As soon as Nick got in the car at the first test day at Queensland Raceway, he was on it straight away. He's very comfortable with the team. He gets on really well with everybody. I mean, you don't extend your time with the team in the first year like that if you don't feel like you're in the right environment. But yeah, you're 100% right. I reckon he'll be deep in the 10 in qualifying. Twin Cam, these guys have known each other for many, many years. They've been childhood mates. Cam's been driving anything under the sun. If he can reduce any potential issues within his stint, like what happened out at Sandown, these guys both cars could be well in the top 10. Cam, I've been watching Cam closely all year, and he's been building, and his results have been really, really consistent. If he can qualify better, he won't need to fight as hard as what he has. But I suppose on the flip side of that, he's been developing his racecraft to move forward all the time. He's probably passed the most cars than anybody in the championship all year, but that's on the back of qualifying. He's a fast driver. Just sometimes he potentially puts himself under a bit too much pressure and maybe second guess himself as well. He and Forgy get on really, really well. Forgy's an excellent engineer and coaches him along nicely, but I could see both these cars in the top 10. take away the fact that it might be a little bit biased there, but I honestly, I think both cars should be in the top 10. This is the year for MSR. You don't win 2 races in a year by luck. These guys
Yeah.
work extremely, extremely hard. They're a young team, but they work extremely hard. The pit stops, man, they've got so much better in their pit stops, and we saw what happened in Tassie with that. But put it together. Last year was the best result for the team and at a Bathurst round, but this year I think we'll see some real goals kicked.
Next up, we've got Dick Johnson Racing. These ones are hard because going off prior years, I mean, you'd fully expect both cars to be in the top 10 shootout, both cars to run at the front all day, but they've been somewhat up and down. Like, I thought they were on their trajectory is improving all year, and then Sandown was really disappointing. Even Anton getting it into the top 10, and then somewhat fortuitously, I suppose, with that shootout lap. But then in the race, they just didn't seem to have any pace. And apparently in the teammate kind of battle, Di Pasquale and D'Alberto were the most evenly matched, I think it was, for lap times. And I was relatively disappointed with Kai Allen's contribution over the weekend, but then it's not like Davison was setting the world alight. So if that form continues into Bathurst, I suppose that's a long way of saying I wouldn't be surprised if neither of these guys make the shootout and don't even run in the top 10 during the day.
It's unfortunately, I think you're right. I mean, the team's gone from a powerhouse under Penske. They still got a lot of the same people working there. Some have moved on, but the attitude and the way they go about racing is very, very similar to what it has been the last couple of years. I think Anton can qualify the car quite high up in the 10, as we could see. Obviously, the car was fast when you nearly loop it at the start of the lap there. But again, like the BRT cars, they don't seem to hold on to their tyres like these. I don't know whether it's a setup philosophy or it's just there's something with the Mustangs that seem to burn the tyres a lot faster than the other guys as well.
So, but then having all that negativity, you also, if they get the setups right on the weekend and we're back on the hard tyre here, I mean, both of these guys could potentially shoot for the win if everything goes right over the weekend. But I just can't. Yeah, I can't see it happening. So I can't put them in for a shout at the win.
No, 100%. I mean, Kai did an okay job last year with Simona in the wildcard entry.
Yeah.
This year he's not auditioning for a drive, so he's not going out there and trying to set the timesheets alive. He could learn a lot off Will as well too, and he'd be mad not to. But is it a good thing that he's not vying for a seat in regards to being quick, or is it a good thing that he doesn't have to? We're not going to know until after 161 laps. But I mean, Tony and Anton, like you said, they're similar height. Their driving styles complemented each other. I mean, Tony's been in and around the team for quite a while now, so he's obviously doing something right. They could do a really good job, but unfortunately, I just can't see it happening.
No, let's we'll write them off.
I'm always happy to be proven wrong with any of them.
Next up, we've got Grove Racing. If it rains, well, Richie's probably going to take the win and secure himself a seat for next year somewhere. But if it's dry, I think Matt Payne but I expect both of these guys to make the top 10 shootout. And I think with Dale Woods, obviously, he'll do a very solid job. But I think Matt Payne and Garth Tander, there's a combination where either of them, as long as the setup and everything's right, those two can run at the front. No co-driver's going to do much better job than what Garth Tander can do. And Matt Payne has shown that he can run with the best of the guys. So I honestly think these guys are in with a shout of the win, if not just a podium.
Well, I've got Matt and Garth as being on the podium, and Richie and Dale as being smokies for a podium. You're
Yep.
100% right. I think I haven't checked to see what the weather's supposed to be, but I mean, if it's indifferent, I think, yeah, Richie comes right into play. He's got nothing to lose either. I mean, every race, every time he gets
Yep.
behind the wheel, he's got nothing to lose at the moment. But I mean,
Yep.
he's won the race with Shane. He knows what it takes to win the race. Um,
Mm.
hopefully, hopefully these Mustang motors can last the distance and we have
Last.
a good race. But um, Matty Payne, he's slowly getting better and better and better. Having Garth in his corner, chirping in his ear and pushing him along. I think Matty can make little mistakes here and there that sort of can creep into his driving as well too. If he takes that out and they have a clean run, and it's the same with a lot of these guys. A lot of them will. We saw it at Sandown. You're not going to win the race at turn one. A lot of these guys
Mm.
need to let the track come to them. CL is very, very good at doing it. Look at when he and Richo won the race that
Yeah.
last time. They knew they had a plan right from the Thursday that they were just going to be there or thereabouts, run a number, let the track come to them, and the result came. So I don't want Matty to sort of push the envelope too much. Just let the race settle. And the race, it'll come to him. Hand the car over to Garth in a good position, and then the rest will take care of itself. I mean, poor old Dale. I mean, I think he's probably not driven a lap as a co-driver more than any other driver in the history of supercars. But on his day, he can do a great job as well too. So they're a bit yin and yang, Richie and Dale. Dale's quite out there, and Richie's quite reserved. But I mean, that can be a good thing too. So
Yeah.
these guys can have a rock solid weekend if they get all their ingredients together and baked properly.
Yeah. Yeah. As I said, I'm expecting the 19 to be within a shout of the win, and the 26 has a bit of a smoky. I wouldn't be surprised if if everything kind of aligns, they end up on the podium as well.
Well, that's right. I mean, we talk about getting the ticket to the last 30 laps. I think Matty's just got to be patient and wait for that, and he's in a good position. That's when his time to shine will be.
And now for Walkinshaw and Andretti United. Before Sandown, I would have had, well, Chaz Mostert and Lee Holdsworth definitely in with a shout for the win. The Ryan Wood, Fabian Coulthard, a bit more question markish. After Sandown, though, Lee Holdsworth didn't exactly cover himself in glory. With them then moving back onto hard tyres, it could be a very different situation. And Fabian was actually quite impressive as a co-driver. He was definitely the stronger one in the team. And then Ryan Wood, he's still a bit of a question mark. If the day goes right for him, though, he can take it to Chaz if everything's right. So I guess it's a long way of saying these guys, Chaz will be in the top 10 shootout, no doubt. Ryan's got an excellent chance of being in the top 10 shootout as well. And Chaz and Lee should be going for the win, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Ryan Wood is in there in the mix at the end of the day, because Fabian will do a good enough job to keep it wherever Ryan has the car. Fabian will be able to keep the car in that position.
I think, yes, Ryan's going to be fast. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the shootout. But I think during the race, he needs to back it off a tenth or two just to get to the end of the race. He gets himself in a good position and everything. But I just like to see him back it off, maybe a tenth or two. And that's where the experience with Fabian will come in as well too. Absolutely. I was surprised that Fabian was probably the better driver out of those four at Sandown. Lee was auditioning for some dance competition, I think, with that pirouette. But I think also too the team need to be matched up to the level of Chaz and Lee as well too a little bit. Like Chaz I think he's been carrying that car a lot through his ability. which for me, I would like to see the team sort of step up and support him a little bit more. Looking at maybe with the whole super thing coming in, being announced prior to Bathurst, I wonder whether it should have been left till after Bathurst to let these guys concentrate on putting a good result together at Bathurst. But obviously, there was a reason why they probably wanted to announce it now. There'll be a lot of distraction around that, probably with media wanting to talk to a lot of these people on the over the weekend. Whereas Chaz on his day will beat anybody, and I've got these guys down as a potential winner as well too. So, but Lee doesn't seem to be on the money like he has been the last couple of years, whether that's through a lack of driving or whatnot. But it's still a great combination.
Next up, we've got Tickford Racing with Cam Waters and James Moffat together again, and Thomas Randall and Tyler Everingham. To me, the question marks are the co-drivers here. I expect Cam to be definitely in the top 10 shootout, definitely fighting at the front. Thomas, a little bit more of a question whether he gets into the top 10. I think he'll kind of around that Cam Hill level. He'll either be knocking on it or just outside of the shootout. But my thing, the hard thing to overlook is I think when Moff gets into the car, that it's probably going to lose a couple of positions. And then Waters is then going to be on the back foot fighting against guys, well, let's say even just the Triple Eight guys. So even if Cam hands him the car in first position, I can see it being in third position by the time Cam gets back in and then having to get it back up there. And that's where I think they're going to struggle.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Moff can put a really good stint together. Whether he can do a double stint maybe and change the dynamics of it, these guys are going to be close together. These guys might need to split their strategy as well too. I mean, Thomas can be fast, but he seems to have this ability to let mistakes creep in and take himself out of contention. He was on for a great result in Tassie and just had a bit of a brain fart. And Tyler, I don't know what Tyler's been doing this year, so I can't really comment too much on him. But I mean, obviously he's a good steerer. He's been picked by one of the lead teams in the category. But with Cam and Moff, there's a bit of, I think these guys could end up on the podium potentially. But you're 100% right. Moff is the question mark in that as well too. But I think Thomas, again, I would talk about backing it off a little bit, and these guys probably just need to let the race come to them a little bit more, whereas Cam and Moff, they could probably attack it a little bit more than the other guys. It's an interesting one. They should be up there, but they tend to shoot themselves in the foot every now and then. So hopefully it doesn't happen that way, but they could have a really good result.
And now for the championship leaders, Triple Eight. Will Brown and Scott Pye, they're definitely in with a shot at the win. And with it being Bathurst, something will go wrong with the 88 and calamities will ensure. And they'll give it an easy run for the 87 to take the win.
I think the people that are going to push the others more or the biggest threat to these guys is each other. I think Will and Brock, they're not afraid to touch door panels if they need to. And I think Will's got the slight edge on Brock during the year. But, yeah, these guys could potentially take themselves out. But they should both be on the podium, one or the other. I really think that Brock and Jamie will win the race. And I think Will and Scotty will come second. These guys are their own worst enemies. I don't think there's a big threat from other guys, apart from probably Chaz, if everything's going well. See what happens. Hopefully the gear lever stays in contact with the tunnel and they're not having to nurse the cars. But I mean, watching the heartache with Brock, seeing a result disappear reminded me of poor old Cito back in the day leading the race and was going to take the race out. You could just see that emotion and what it means to them as well too. But you can't really question these guys too much. I mean, they're the cream of the crop. They're that for a reason. But I really think that Brock and Jamie, I think they've just got the edge over Will and Scotty over the longer distance.
I'm going to disagree on that one. I think also now with the full course yellow situation that you haven't got the fears of the double stacking now. So there's not going to be as, I suppose, finer point on having to be that lead car from the start of the race. And just going off what's happened during the year, on the longer runs, it's always seemed that Will's had that slight edge on Brock all year. So I think even if it comes down to kind of that last couple of stints, once the co-drivers have got their laps done, that then Will be able to break Brock over that longer run. But I think these two are definitely going to be in the fight, and then whether anyone else can get into the fight with them.
Yeah, 100%. These guys, they're not going to be streets ahead, but they're going to be up the front the whole race. It's come catch me if you can.
Yeah, and as I said, with the full course yellow thing, it's not like you're then going to have one dropping back and trying to catch back up with the leader. It's going to be both of them are going to stay in that lead battle all day.
Well, that's right. And I think one or both of these guys are going to dictate what sort of lap times that people are going to run during the event. I think a lot of the teams will have numbers that they want their drivers to stick to. But if these guys go out hard and fast, it may suck the other guys in. It depends on how well they stick to the plan. So, again, we're not drivers, but, I mean, we can understand competitiveness and when you're in the car, you don't like to see the car in front of you get ahead of you too far. So,
especially if it's your teammate.
Yeah, well, exactly right. But like I said, I think these guys, they're each other's worst nightmare within the race. I think they're going to both be fighting for the win, and whoever puts the best result together or the over the weekend and make sure that there's no mistakes. I think Scotty's done a brilliant job this year. I'm not really surprised, but I was pleased at how well he actually drove. He seemed to put a lot of emphasis into making sure he was ready for this drive, and it showed, and it absolutely showed. So bring it on. We'll see what happens.
So in summary, it looks like we're both saying both of the Triple Eight cars will definitely be in the fight. Then I think the number one, Brodie Kostecki, Todd Hazelwood, 19, the Matt Payne and Garth Tander, and 25, Chaz Mostert and Lee Holdsworth. They're probably my 5 picks for the win. Obviously, there's going to be some dark horses like your Heimgartner, Stanaway, Percat, guys like that. But I definitely think that it's probably going to come from those 5. Do you agree, or you got anyone else that you want to throw in the mix?
Well, my personal opinion is that Brock and Jamie will win the race. And I've got a gut feeling that maybe Brodie and Todd could be pushing them up for second. I've got Chaz and Lee in at third. So they're my top 3. I mean, it's hard to leave Will and Scotty out of that top 3, but there's so many combinations there that can do the job. But and then I've got Cam Waters coming in the top 5 as well too. I think if they stay out of trouble, they can pull a really good result. And I've actually thrown a Smokey in the top 5. I think if Twin Cams can do a solid job, keep out of control, they could pull a top 5. They really could. So I like to be proven wrong.
Yeah, I'd really like a surprise winner. If James Golding and Dave Russell I would love to have that model car in my collection. So if you guys want to win, I will not say I need a reason to buy that car. So I'd be very happy with that one. But it does seem quite wide open. But then I think we're probably looking at between the two Triple Eight cars, the main ones going for the win, and then I'd I think it'll be Will Brown and Scott Pye, and then probably Brody and Todd Hazelwood. Once again, a massive shout out to Scott for joining me on that. And also, I'm still running the tipping competition for Bathurst. Up for grabs is one of these amazing mugs, my special Supercars Talk mugs. I'll post it out to you if you do win. Basically, you've got to tip the top 5 in the race. All the entries are taken off the comments from last week's video or this week's video. I didn't mention last week, but if I've clicked that the heart button underneath, I've logged your entry. If somehow I have missed yours, please message me and tell me, hey, you're an idiot, you missed it. Here's my tips again. For the few people who can't comment on videos, drop me an email. The email address will be here very shortly. Anyway, down in the comments section, your top 5 to enter to win one of these super mugs. And yeah, let me know what you think about the full course yellow changes and the calendar for next year. There's a lot of news thrown at us this week on this very special sacred week. But enjoy the weekend. I will be doing videos each night about the track action with the full race recap coming out like normal on a Tuesday. But until next time, I'm still Dave. Enjoy Bathurst, and I'll catch you later.
You wonder about these issues they're having with the motors. Is it purely a part, or are they because they're able to run the motors longer? We don't really know. It'd be interesting to talk to the guys who actually build these motors, which I actually quite know very, very well. One of my best mates actually works for them. But I think the engines themselves, whether it be the Mustang or the Chevy motors, they're built to a very high standard. I don't think it's the build quality that might be the issue. It's just the parts that they have to use causing the issues. So it'd be interesting to see what the Toyota motor will be like when they come on board too. So I don't know what motor they're talking about there, but if they use the LC500 motor out of the Lexus, I've actually driven that car, and my God, it's one of the fastest road-going cars I've ever driven. But it'd be interesting to see who would Wilkinshaw be the homologation team in regards to the motors for them as well too, as well as the car.
Yeah, I think the plan is then that Walkinshaws are going to be building the motors too.
Mm-hmm. Be interesting to see what the car actually looks like as well too.
Yeah, well, they're supposed to have that clay model, I think.
Yes,
at Bathurst. So yeah. You'd be able to have a closer look at it.
With a big nose. I hope that the render that they saw, they had that big proboscis out the front. It was sort of remind me of the number of years ago with the F1 cars with that big front end. So it'd be interesting to see. But I think having new cars in the category is great. This is why these chassis were manufactured the way they were, so this type of thing can happen.